Alrighty. Well, with that, I think we can get started. So, welcome everyone to the April 2026 demo day. I think Alex is going to get us started, showing off a number of things that have transpired since last demo day. So, Alex, you want to take it away?
Sure. Please bear with me if you see me fumbling around. I've got a bunch of different windows open to track my notes and all of the different things we're going to be demoing here. So might be struggling to bring up the right windows. So to start out, we have a UI change here on the scan module. We've had some people note that, particularly with smaller devices, the header up here on the screen can take up a lot of real estate and kind of make it hard to find what they want to click on. So you can see here, I mean, this window is still kind of large, just so that everybody can see it, but we can see that it is persistent there and it can take up some space. However, we now have a new option here called persistent top bar. And so if I were to uncheck that and save my settings and go back to the scan module, you'll see that when I scroll down, the header disappears. So you've got a little bit more screen real estate. So this should be really, really helpful for folks with much smaller screens that are working on the scan app.
I think that works outside of the scan app as well, but I may be misspeaking there.
Yeah, I just closed my window. I'm not sure if it works everywhere. It might. I didn't do too much testing there. Um, Alrighty. And so next we've got kind of a handful of rapid fire things here. So throughout the system here, I'm going to show it in point of sale, but anywhere that you see a print and export button, there's some new things here that should apply. So if you click this to print and export, you'll be prompted like what columns you'd like to display. And so this has always been the case. Now, when you do that, for whatever table that you're trying to export, anything that you select here, when you click preview, for that to load, so you can see that reflects my settings here. But if I were to then go back to this and print and export it again, my settings were saved. So this will be a sticky setting. So anything that you change, you will continue to see those settings that you used on subsequent attempts to print and export. Should I change this again? Preview. I had to pick a big data set to preview here. And do it again. You'll see that it now reflects that latest one. So it'll always kind of reflect the last one that you picked. So hopefully for people who are always doing the same thing, this should be a huge time saver. And there's not a lot of management to it. You don't have to go into settings or anything. It just kind of remembers where you were. Then moving on to a point of sale specific feature here. When I selected my customer, I no longer got a pop-up box to ask me if I wanted to enter a quote or a new order. This is now displayed here on the parts tab itself. We've had some issues for people who have access to both orders and quotes. It can be kind of inconvenient. They're being asked to select what order type they are before they want to get to, say, the invoices tab here, which just didn't make sense. So we've moved that out so that you no longer have to answer that question when it's not relevant. So this should be a really nice streamline for that process. Hopping into a quote. I'll add some items to my cart. We've now made some changes to the display on the cart. There's just some formatting changes. Now if you want to expand your details here, there's like a little plus icon as opposed to what it was before. And you'll also see what fields will be displayed if you do expand it. So it kind of tells you what you're not seeing and what you can see if you want to expand it. Additionally, we do have a new MRK Control setting. As you can see, this is a quote, and in the past, you would see the markup data table with the quantity and price breaks. That is no longer necessary via an MRK control setting. Let me just find it. There's setting right here, quotes single line pricing. And so this will basically treat your quote as if it only has one quantity price breakpoint. And that top row on the table that would be displayed in SO quote will always be just what you've set here for the price and quantity. As additional note to kind of just prevent a little bit of confusion here, when the setting is disabled, which it is by default, and you do see the price markup table, the price field here in the cart will be disabled, so you cannot edit it. So you know that you need to go to the price breakpoint table if you want to adjust pricing with multiple breakpoints enabled. And should be it for sale. Oh, we do also now support some validation events if you want to do more host side integration for specific fields like here on the markup. We do support triggering host side validation events on these individual additional fields that are displayed as well, so we can have a bit more power, particularly for different integrations, but also if you want to do something special here or adjust things based on markup and pricing. And all of this applies to the order type as well as the quote type.
Some of those UI improvements that you mentioned there, Alex, I think maybe it's good to note that they're responsive. So if your window is smaller, you're going to see fewer columns there, and it will indicate what columns will be shown. So see how the list of columns that will display when it expands grows as your window shrinks. So hopefully just giving people a good idea of what they're going to see when they expand that section.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Going to hop over to production for a quick little demo. We have made a few hopefully quality of life improvements to the scheduling chart here. For one, you can see that I now have like the little hand cursor instead of just a normal mouse cursor. You can actually click and scroll. If you just click and hold, you can scroll. If this table was taller, we could even scroll up and down with it as well. So you can kind of pan through that without having to look for a scroll bar or any other type thing like that. We have also made some adjustments to where this overlay shows up when you click things. Previously, it would show up always like at the start of the bar, which if the start of the bar was off your screen, you wouldn't be able to see this overlay anymore, and that has been fixed. And as well, now this split button here works the same way as if you were to drag an item onto the chart. You would get this split operation on drop, which lets you pick multiple intervals when you're scheduling. You now get the same feature here when you click the split button in the overlay. So you no longer have to manually split it one interval at a time. You can do it all at once. Hopping over to accounting, we now support through account control the ability to add custom KPI cards here. And so this was previously just going to show a blank card. And the title was based on the KPI that you had selected. But we now support something called a KPI that is in Rover to display this kind of data. So you can see just in account control on the additional lookups here, you can pick pending approval. And then we'll go over to KPI.E, and this is the pending approval record. So this is the new data entry screen here in Rover that lets you select the KPI and some of the details around there, and we can see that this is reflected here on the KPI card, and you can select what kind of display type you want. So you can have a bar chart, just a basic stat card, which would look like the orders here, and that lets you enter multiple fields, in which case you would actually list them down here in the stat card rather than on the axes fields. You can do a horizontal bar, a line chart, a pie chart. The trend chart, it's not quite supported yet, but it is a possibility. So let's say I want to change this to a pie chart. Click Save, and I can refresh my accounting dashboard. Let it load up. And now I've got a pie chart here. And so these charts are also interactable. So in general, if you just click the pending approval, you'll get that full data table. But you can even see here we've got, okay, these ones are on March 13th. And so now we'll see only the records that are on March 13th versus February 26th, where I can just click back on the general card and then get the whole view again. So it's a lot of interactability and interaction in there, and some pretty cool dynamic features here that we can support. To my notes. And finally, a quick demo of a proof of concept kind of feature that we're working through. This is kind of a platform level improvement that we're working through to allow some larger jobs to be performed through Rover Web or any system that is integrated with our API gateway itself. So I'm going to just quickly bring up a customer. This is a testing customer that I've used. So we can see the name, Alex, test one, phone number. We've got a note here, run check. Okay. And in this case, the platform supports a new import job. And so previously, when you're importing a file, you would upload your file, and then it would kind of just sit here and you'd have to stay on this page. But you can see now I've got this little pop-up here that says I've got a customer import job that's been queued up, 44 records. I can click away. I see that my job is running. And I can continue to interact with the application while that job runs in the background. If I want to check on the status, oh, looks like 20 records have been uploaded. Oh, now I've got 30 of them. Then we can watch the progress of this for a second. You can see my point of sale is still loading in the background when I click that. And now my job is completed. So looking at the file that I imported here, see 8151, should be changing the name of that customer record that I had from Alex Test to Alex Demo. Let's go back to the customer. We can see now that my changes were reflected there, and I was able to continue to interact with the application while it did that longer running task. And so this platform is intended to be kind of an open platform that we can continue to add different workloads to. So say you want to upload a document and have some sort of processing happen in the background, like a PDF document to do some analysis on, we can certainly support something like that. We do have to implement these features. It's not something that anybody can just kind of dump some workload on there, but that gives us a much better way to have a lot more power in some longer running jobs be executed here. And this is not available yet, but this is hopefully coming soon.
Yeah, kudos to getting this done. I think you, Greg, the team rallied around this idea pretty quickly last week. Some kudos to Tyler on the Rover AI side. That's really where we started to run into the need for something like this. But you could see here how it also helps out current state stuff too. I think if you're not quite sure how to process everything Alex was just talking through, that's okay. I would say maybe the easiest way to think about it, or another way to think about it, is usually when we want to go do some work, like when the Rover Gateway needs to talk to a system to have some work done, it has required that there would actually be an ERP or equivalent system sitting there with the customer's stuff on it for us to go talk to go do some work, right? And this platform adjustment really paves the way for that to no longer be a requirement. Right? We want to do some heavy compute. We want to crunch some numbers. We want to scan a document, but maybe we don't have access to the customer's ERP to go ask it to do the work and then let us know when it's done, right? So this is really cool. I think this is like tip of the spear stuff in terms of the opportunity that this is going to present for us. I really wanted to underline that. So thank you. That's really exciting stuff.
Thank you.
All right, now I have to follow that. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so just going through another list of things here. So I wanted to highlight that in the accounting module, for payments and receivables, we do now have the detail pages wired up in production. So if you're on payables and you click on an item, it will open that item in a detailed view, allow you to make edits if you have appropriate permissions, so you can make changes to existing AP and AR items, as well as creating new AP and AR items. So again, that works on AP and AR. Click over on receivables. You can open an item, and it will open in the tab view. So you can have multiple items open at any given time as well. So just wanted to let you know that has been released to production. Now, the next item I'm just going to show from release notes. I don't have a quick way to demo it. So we're starting to make use of a lot of our forms def items within the Rover web stack. So allowing for dialogues to be presented that are configured on the host side. So specific fields that have been indicated for the host or from the host to display to the web. So we now support an inline message type. So as an item is being submitted, the host can respond back with an error message or a warning message in advance of it being submitted. So this is supported both as an inline view and as a dialog view that can pop up from a forms def dialog that's presented on the web. So this is just an example of one of those use cases. Okay, clicking over to tickets and time. Whoops, wrong module. In tickets and time, a couple improvements. So the recently viewed items, if you had deleted an item from that list, it was not being persisted properly. So you might see it come back. That's been addressed, so that should no longer be an issue. There's also a couple new fields that have been added, specific use cases for Zoom Assist, but there might be other use cases there. So hours budgeted and project task are new fields that have been added and exposed in tickets and time. All right, and then jumping into the scan module. So at one point in the past, there was a regression where we weren't showing scan module headers. We weren't showing the scan module function that you were in the header section. So once you clicked on an item, you didn't necessarily know where you were unless it was provided by the context of the fields on the form. So that is resolved again. So now you have the name of the module or the application within the scan module that you're in, and you can always click on that to get back to the main menu. And then the next item is sort of in addition to this. So clicking back in my other window here in the scan module. So these scan applications within the module that show up are a mix of things already. So some of these are just native default Rover Web features that have been enabled, like transfer and inventory check. Those sort of exist for everyone and they're just base product. Items can also be presented here that are defined by forms def. So like this move tote is a forms def item. So the host side has defined that we're going to expose a feature called move tote, and it's going to present these fields and allow the user to scan or manually enter items there. We're introducing a new feature. We're calling it a workflow. And initially it is presented on the scan module. So this particular item here, batch pick IT movements, is what we're calling a workflow. So that comes up and prompts you for, hopefully I can remember the picker I was working with. There we go. So in this case, I'm entering a picker ID. It's going out and pulling the parts associated with that picker and presenting me data based on a lookup. So these columns of data are just a lookup that's defined on the picker table. Optionally, there's an option for auto mode. So if auto mode's not enabled and I click on an item, it just pops up. This is a forms def dialog that's being presented to prompt the user for specific fields of information. You'll notice if I cancel out of this, we're tracking status across the rows. So that was canceled. So it's being highlighted as yellow. I can also enable auto mode. So in auto mode, if I click on a line and I progress through those lines, it presents the next line to me as I cancel or save out of an item. And this would have all the standard validation. So if I don't enter any data here and I click save, it's going to, yell at me that I didn't provide proper data. So then it's like, if I continue to cancel out, eventually you get to a summary view. So the summary is optional as well. And I'm going to show you in a moment how that can all be configured. But in this case, I didn't complete any of these items. They were all skipped. I can click on summary and it'll show me skipped. It should be showing line item details here. Sorry. This is a bit of a work in progress. So still working out a few of the kinks. But the general idea here for these workflows, at least as presented in Scan, is to show the user a set of data and allow them to take action on each of those rows of data, generally through a forms def dialog. So I think there's a lot of possibilities here. It didn't also show, as you're in auto mode, you can also disable it on the fly. So if I hit cancel there and stop auto, then I can manually go in and out of the items. So there should be a lot of functionality that's exposed here. And again, this is completely configured on the fly. So speaking of that, we're going to expose a web admin module as sort of a first feature of adminning these workflows. So with proper permission, and we need to come up with a new icon because this shares the import export, so it gets a little confusing. But there will be an icon on the left if you have proper permission where you can get to web admin. So now we're displaying the workflows that have been defined here. We can create new workflows. You can also duplicate an existing one. So if I wanted to just make a copy of one that was already there, I would just enter a new ID and then modify just the settings that I'm interested in changing. Just doing this admin on the web rather than a desktop form exposes all sorts of new options, right? So we can present a list of, if I want to change the icon that's being presented for this particular item, I get a nice drop down with examples of the values there. Down below, I have colors that are allowed. So in that summary view I was showing, if I canceled a row, it shows up as this canceled background. If I don't want yellow, I can choose some other color. So if I want to use some kind of weird purple color, I can do that. So just a lot of new options for how we present the maintenance of items through the web rather than through a desktop form. And this is exciting to get this out here and start allowing things to be interacted with in this way. I think KPIs that Alex just showed is a natural next item that we would add here. But just look for this web admin section to grow over time, and we'll expose new things that can be managed here. Any questions on any of this?
I mean, it's similarly really cool stuff on a number of levels, the workflow thing, but also, us finally taking the first steps at putting administration stuff on the web and not just living with user settings only and everything else being server side. So we're ripping that Band-Aid off now, which is, shouldn't go unnoticed. I wanted to give Andrew a quick shout out there too. The ticket stuff that you showed off, Greg, I'm pretty certain came from Andrew. So kudos to him for, seeing the opportunity and diving right in. It was helpful to have that done.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Before I hand it off to
Sweet. Thanks, Greg. Share my screen here with you. So shout out to Tyler, who built this cool AI pipeline app to help our sales team and our AI team keep track of all of our AI opportunities as we work through the stages of our sales process. So these are all our AI opportunities right now, and you can click into them and it'll show you all the details for that opportunity. And then you can also go down and score each category here. So for example, do we have data access? Yes or no. And you got your time for how much time we've worked on this project. And then this is also hooked up to Grain and has all the Grain meetings that we've had with Rottler Manufacturing. You can drag and drop through here to move opportunities around. If you want, if an opportunity falls off, you can do that straight through the UI here. Just click this and hit remove. And if that opportunity presents itself again, you can restore that opportunity. You have some filters here. You can filter through all the sales. And yeah. Any questions on this?
I think I'll jump back in for you here. I think like there's a lot of really cool things about this. But I think it's a great showcase in particular for kind of the vision we see for Rover AI and the selling point to a lot of these companies on how they can be using it to level up the stuff that they've built up around their systems. And like when you look at this, you go, okay, cool. We know we have SO quotes in Rover. We know those SO quotes become SOs and those become projects. And we know we have an orders at Zoom Assist email where the sales team's supposed to send signed quotes for Susie to look at and, create the order and follow this process and everything. So you have this like existing mixture of things that are, in the ERP and outside of the ERP for us. And what Rover AI, the opportunity that presents is this ability to tap into that stuff, but then quickly stitch it together, right? So we're kind of looking at this as like, hey, Rover AI sales are taking off. we really need some process around managing this. And, a year ago, that would have looked like a combination of these systems, right? You have some sales opportunities in Rover that become quotes, and you're tracking maybe new status or type or something there. And then you have a spreadsheet with things, and maybe you build a dashboard for things and kind of do a few different things, have a Teams group set up and an email address and all that other stuff, and kind of pull it all together. Now, what that looks like is really, well, you start with Rover AI, you set your table with the various touch points, and you start to build out the thing that you want to use to manage the process there, right? So it's great because it allows rapid iteration of these ideas in a way that just feels nice and comfortable and doesn't require necessarily a big distraction of resource to get it done. Right. It's really, really powerful. So it's been really cool to watch that come together. And it was important to me that everybody got a chance to see this too during demo day here, because our reality is, you know, things are not modernization around Rover moving forward is not restricted to the web development conversation. And judging by the customer interest and prospect interest from the sales perspective, we're only going to be seeing more and more of these types of efforts. And that's not to take away from, web work that will continue to happen, and even desktop customization that will continue to happen on the Rover ERP side of it. But our reality seems, pretty squarely to be landing into this space now of, we've got the ERP, we've got the great foundation, we've got the great product set around all of that, but rapid delivery of things seems like Rover AI is going to be at the core there. And it's really cool because it just gets to, stand on the shoulders of everything else that came before it, right? So using the Rover APIs to do quotes and opportunities and stuff. And pretty soon this thing will tap into the Rover APIs for projects and everything, and continue to smooth over what we've got is that sales process of quote to email to Susie to order and project and everything else to just make that even easier to manage. So great job, Drew. I know you've helped a lot here. Great job also to Tyler for getting things moving, and for the sales and AI team in general to be pushing this stuff forward.
Thanks.